Hi everyone, it's Ben Songroth with the Illinois Learning Technology Center, and today I'm going to do a quick screencast on digital media literacy and ways you can help your students become better critical thinkers when they're evaluating media on the internet. So our students are being bombarded every day through social media and other online platforms with news. And some of that is credible and some of it is not. Some of it is sponsored ads and clickbait, and some of it are actual good, solid researched articles. So how can we combat this influx of fake news and unreliable content into our students' lives and get them to start evaluating the sources that they're reading and that they're looking at? Well, there are two things that stand out in my mind on the internet right now that can help with this. So the first one's called Listenwise and the next one's called AllSides. So I'm going to jump into a quick screencast here and show you both and see how you like them. Okay, folks, so our first online web app is Listenwise. So Listenwise's mission is to bring lessons to students and allow them to critically think through topics with their teachers. So teachers, you guys can sign up for a premium version and send out assignments to your classes, or you can use the free version, and that allows your students to access the content. You just don't get to do things like set up classes and all of that type of fun stuff. But we're focused in here on critically thinking through current events. So how can our students use Listenwise to critically think through current event material? Well, one of the ways that they do that is they bring in news stories from NPR. So actual National Public Radio stories that are told on NPR come into our classrooms, which I used to think NPR was super boring, but now I find it to be amazingly interesting, especially when you put it into context of Listenwise. So here we go. We're in the current events tab. You can see over here you also have a lessons tab that you can search for specific lessons for different subjects, but we're going to focus in on current events. And I'm going to pick this one right here called Voting Laws Cause Confusion. So we're going to click on that, and when you get into this event, you see that the news story has a quick blurb, but then what I like about this is that your students can listen to the story. And when they hit play down here, recent midterm elections, about 60%. They get to listen to the story, but then you notice the transcript highlights the words as the NPR narrator is telling the news story. So your students can follow along with the transcript as they're listening to the story, which I think is amazing. The next thing that really brings about the critical thinking piece is the assignment resources tab. So this gives you, the teacher, or your students different questions to consider while they're listening to the story. So each one of these Listenwise stories comes with these preset questions for you to use for your students to kind of go through and track while they're listening to the story. But then also you as a teacher get these discussion themes that you can start a discussion with your students about the story that they just listened to. So again, it's not just giving our students news and then asking them to evaluate it on their own. It's giving you a set list of comprehension questions that can help students figure out what are the right questions to ask when we're viewing a news story. So really great, and the transcript of the story is awesome for differentiation, but you notice up here in the right hand corner you can also slow it down, and what this does is it actually takes and slows the speed down. The line of immigrants applying to become U.S. citizens for those students that maybe need that extra time to comprehend what they're listening to and what they're reading. So really great to differentiate in the classroom, and the ability to teach our students how to critically think through online resources. So our next website that we're going to look at for media literacy is AllSides.com. And AllSides.com is one of my awesome favorite current event websites to take students to, because what it does is it filters news sites and news articles based on media bias. So it has a media bias ranking system for news websites, and then when they publish an article, that article will get placed inside of the spectrum from where it comes. So for example, they take an overarching topic like predictions for the midterms, and then they spin it to show, or they don't spin it, they show how it might be spun. So you can see you have a from the left, a from the right, and from the center. So each one of these articles is about the midterm elections, but it shows how each bias may be applied to that. So it's really cool to take students here and just say, look at the headline. How is the headline different from each news source? And then the students can then click in and read this one from CNN. They can click and find the one from The Hill. And they can maybe analyze the differences in language, in title, in how they're portraying it and what the thesis from the article is, and they can really judge how media bias comes into play with how news is being spread. So this is really cool. They have lots of different topics in here that your students can go into, but then also all of the sites that they take news from, they have a bias rating on them. So you can go up here and go to bias and say media bias ratings, and your students can click through here and they can see maybe where they get their news from, and they can see where it falls on the AllSides bias rating. But then you can also contribute. So you can see that the community gives feedback based on how they feel the bias is spun for that news source. What's also great about this is your students can go up here to what's your bias, and they can take a way to rate their own bias on things. So pretty cool way that you can go in here and see how media can be biased, and that not all news is covered the same exact way. So AllSides, great resource to use with your students when covering news and digital media literacy. So those are two great resources for you to bring to your students. I think it's really awesome that there's resources like this out there for teachers to use with their students to help them evaluate source material and bias, and critically thinking through news instead of just seeing a headline, jumping on it, and then believing that that's the thing. We live in a world of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram are our places that people go to find out the news. And if we took everything that we see on Facebook as fact, or everything we see on Twitter as fact, we're going to end up in a really messy spot. And so it's important to teach our students that just because that's what the headline says, or just because that's what the meme says, it's not always the case. And you need to research that and think through it before you go hit share on that, or before you just accept that as fact and form an opinion on it. So use these two, Listenwise and AllSides, with your students. I think it's really great. And teach them good digital citizenship, because we need a new army of good digital citizens to come about and really be good individuals out there on the internet and use the internet for good. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.